Greetings, you lucky libertados, and welcome to another thrilling episode of the Scottish Liberty Podcast, number 77, with
Antony Sammeroff.
And of course, me, Ming the Merciless. And we'd come to you today from Glasgow with the shock news that a bright orange disc in the sky is causing panic. People are running, screaming through the streets with their children, dragging them behind them. Wondering what the fuck it is. So if anybody knows what this strange orange disc in the sky is in Glasgow today, you can let us know. Drop us a line, tell us what you think it is. Anthony, what have we got for the lucky people today?
Well, you and I both had a little bit of a listen to the podcast of Russell Brand, Short Horror. Brand. I have once or twice received a comment on one of my videos saying, Russell Brand has really let himself go. To which I responded, it was my marriage to Katy Perry that really took it out of me. Why do you think I've lost my hair? Yeah. So, interesting. So we listened to a couple of episodes. Why? Because people that we're interested in were on Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris. Yeah. I also listened to the episode with Rupert Sheldrake. Did you listen?
You never told me that.
No, well, that's just a secret.
Okay.
Hi to our live listeners. Nice to see you on here at the scheduled time. So what did you think? Well, first of all, tell us what you think about Russell Brand in general.
Okay. It was difficult for me because, for a start, I cannot stand Russell Brand. I think he's, well, first of all, let me be perfectly honest. One of the biggest things that annoys me is he gets to shag really good looking women.
Yeah, I thought that might be one of your motivations for hating him, actually.
And he just reminds me of that guy. There's always that guy at parties who's a bit alpha, but he pretends to be a beta so that he can get into women's pants.
But see, if he's a bit alpha, then why does he have to pretend to be
because
beta?
He's not alpha enough.
Can he just be alpha?
No, he's not alpha enough to mix it up with the alphas, if you know what I mean. He's not tough enough. I don't even think he's funny enough.
No, actually, I've seen him in interviews, and he's very, very quick on his feet. But I think he learned that to compensate for all sorts of insecurities and also to get women. Yeah. Because I've seen interviewers give him really difficult questions, and he has come out with. The thing is, he doesn't lose his composure, and in that way, he has been quite alpha in the sense that he's always got a smarter response. He shrugs it off. It doesn't let his confidence waver, and it is quite an enviable trait. That not like that ability that
that ability to shag good-looking women.
Well, definitely that. But I think that ability to never lose your composure, no matter what anyone says, and just always have a smart response, does lead to being able to shag good-looking women. Controversial. You guys at home, tell us. I want to hear from the ladies. See when a guy never loses his composure and always has a smart response. Does that make the panties drop, as they say in hip-hop music?
Okay. No, right. So I think he's a sesquipedalian prick, right? And I know that's ironic me using the word sesquipedalian.
You'll have to look that up.
I think he uses a lot of big. I literally think he randomly picks big words out of the dictionary, puts them all in a hat, and just takes them out and strings them all together into fucking meaningless fucking sentences. I mean. The Sam Harris one I thought was embarrassing. The Jordan Peterson one was a bit because I think Jordan Peterson went easy on him, right? Okay. I think Jordan Peterson kind of likes him, and was really interested in maybe analysing him through that conversation. But I think what annoyed me was, I mean, he took ages just to ask Jordan Peterson, "Do you believe in God?" He tried to phrase it in clever, sesquipedalian terms, but it just fucking didn't work. And I found the whole thing excruciating. I was like Michael Caine in that film, The Ipcris File, when he's like digging a nail into his hand to try and resist the powers of the interrogators. I just thought it wasn't Car Crash. Russell Brand annoys me so much. As somebody said, he's amazing. A fucking chimney sweep who should be stuck up a fucking chimney and left
We're
there
gonna have
permanently.
to make a compilation of Tam's most controversial statements. Like, for example, when he said that some people are poor because they're cunts, and that some people deserve to be homeless.
Russell Brand deserves to be homeless.
Oh man,
wasn't he actually homeless at one time?
He may well have been.
Or does he just say that for street cred? You know, yeah, I was once homeless. Yeah, I was homeless. Okay. I used to do heroin and stuff, a lot of drugs and stuff. Yeah, me and my mum used to do a lot of steroids. It made my hair go all big. That's why my head keeps doing that all the time, because my hair's that heavy. Maybe I'm just jealous of his heavy hair as well.
I think you're jealous of him having sex with beautiful women. But
he just looks such a dick. You know, it's like he's like a tramp's mate. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll give you my. First of all,
is she really going out with him? Is she really gonna take him home tonight? Well, it turns out yes. It makes me actually despair of the female gender, right? When I see women getting it with fuckwits like Russell Brand, right? I mean, I get it. He's got loads of money, and maybe he's got a cock like a baboon's. I've got no idea. But
I think he knows how to play the game. He probably knows how to make them feel like, ooh.
Yeah, like he just blows smoke up their arse and does that cheeky, cheeky, chappy
but
thing.
Women love cheeky guys. They just love cheeky guys. That's why I've worked so hard to be so cheeky.
Well, I'm cheeky. It don't get me anywhere.
Yeah, but you're also borderline misogynist, so they feel the hatred.
Shock.
Men who love women are beloved of women.
Is that so? Right? Okay.
Well, some of them.
I don't think he loves women. I think he preys on women.
I didn't say that he was one of those. I didn't say that women only love men that love women. But okay. Here, okay, let me have a turn. Fuck's sake, right? Shut up. I would say I totally agree that he's overly verbose, and I wonder if that is. Now I'm using a word like verbose. You use sesquipedalian. I wonder if he's compensating for an insecurity because, like, you know, he's got that kind of working class thing background going on. Yeah, he's from a working class background.
Okay, so he's not a mock then.
And he's like, he was, I think at a time in his life, he was desperately insecure, and that's why he built up all this fame and all this facade of being super confident and things like that. Now, this is what, I'm not a huge Russell Brand fan. And
I have a sneaking suspicion you are.
Well, whatever. One thing is, in any time I see him, whenever he fucking mentions the word capitalism, I cringe. Something really stupid always comes out his mouth. Yeah. He doesn't understand capitalism. He doesn't understand the free market. He doesn't understand the distinction between voluntary and non-voluntary. For him, capitalism just means whatever I don't like about what we've got now, that thing is capitalism.
Consumerism, yeah.
He doesn't make a distinction between crony capitalism and free market capitalism, between a political entrepreneur who uses the state, and a lot of the things that the government does, like the wars on and stuff like that. He doesn't blame that on the government. He blames it on capitalism. Yeah. And that is everything that I fucking hate about leftism. And there was, especially the academic form, the last couple of decades, like, and you could be forgiven for holding these views in the 80s and the 90s. But now that we've got all this information on the internet, libertarians are a hot topic. You know, you've got no excuse for not being able to distinguish between free market capitalism and just this made-up thing called capitalism. So, okay,
can I ask though, where was his anti-capitalist principles when he was taking part in Hollywood movies and getting paid?
Well, that's the well. He gets a get out of jail free card, because whenever he complains about capitalism, he goes, "Yeah, and I admit that I am one of the ones benefiting from this system." Okay, well then, whatever. So the only thing that so that's what really pisses me off about Russell Brand. I would love to go on his show or have him on my show to have a debate with him on capitalism versus socialism.
I don't think he debates though.
If anyone knows Russell Brand, please tell him that Antony Sammeroff wants to debate him on capitalism versus socialism.
And if anybody knows Jemima Khan, you can tell her that Tom Laird wants to. So just leave it there.
Okay. So that's what really pisses me off about. I think
actually I wouldn't. I'm not. fuck stirring Russell Brand's porridge. He has tainted these women forever for me with these slimy little
I'm not sure much could
chimney
taint
sweep
I'm not sure much could taint Katy Perry for me. What a babe. What a fucking babe. Anyway, my point is, okay, I want to say what I do respect about Russell Brand, since I've said
Really?
what I don't like about him.
Okay.
I think, yeah, he was he was stand-up comedian, not that funny. I don't know what exactly he's famous for, just being a geezer, really. But he was famous, and I think like he was on drugs, and he was I think he was very inauthentic, and I think everything that he thought that was going to make him happy, like the fame and the drugs and the women, did not make him happy. So he did hit bottom. He's drug-free, doesn't take substances. Okay, I completely fucking disagree with him on politics, but he is trying to use the popularity and fame that he has gained to get people thinking about important ideas, and I think he has become a lot more authentic. Hopefully he'll drop the big language bullshit, because he doesn't need it to show that he's got a brain between his ears. But, you know, I respect anyone that, like, goes through a personal transformation and tries to do something positive.
Well, look, I guess he's successful in a way.
Yeah,
so I mean,
he probably would be more successful if he can talking about ideas and just stuck to the shallow Hollywood stuff. He'd probably be more successful than he is.
Okay, but didn't he? I mean, he kind of lost a bit of popularity through a couple of controversial sort of episodes.
Like
didn't
what?
He? Oh, when him and Jonathan Ross phoned up Andrew Sachs.
What did they say?
I think they were weren't they kind of being a pervy about his daughter or something like that?
Maybe. Okay, so they made a fucking prank phone call when they were high or drunk or whatever. Like, grow up, people. Like, seriously, people.
Can we just check that these pearls of wisdom are actually being heard by our audience, by the way?
All right.
Because we've had a tendency to overlook that in the past. So yeah, no, I'd come down on the side that Russell Brand's a bit of a tosser.
So do you want to say anything about? Do you want to say
anything
about his ideas?
Was excruciatingly bad.
Question for you, Mr. Christian. How did you feel about? We've got Kip and Rusty 6899. Someone says Russell shagged his granddaughter. I don't believe that he has a granddaughter. Does he?
No, I think he meant Russell shagged Andrew Sachs's granddaughter.
All right, okay.
And was kind of it's actually controversial. Yeah, somebody was actually suggesting that Russell Brand
had sex with his own granddaughter.
Okay.
Yeah, I doubt it.
He looks like the kind of guy who would do.
Oh, that's shocking.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question, right? How did you feel when Jordan Peterson, your hero, said something about the story in Genesis, or being, or even of Jesus being purely archetypical, like it is the ultimate example. It's like the worst thing happening to the best person. And he went on to say that literalists miss the point of the religion, because the only reason why it's so powerful is that it isn't literal. I'm paraphrasing. And also, theories and science didn't exist in the day when that book was written. So that only came around with people like Francis Bacon and that, where we got the scientific method. Oh, thank you to our 6 live years. So what was it like for you as a literalist?
I kind of already knew Peterson's viewpoint on this, so it didn't really shock me. But I can't. What mystifies me is if you go, right, okay, it's just all allegory and it's just all a story. It seems to me inconceivable that thousands, millions, even of people would have willingly gone to their deaths for just a story. They just go like, look, this Christianity stuff's just a story. Yeah, do you know what? You're right. Why am I getting myself burnt to death at the stake for something that's just a story?
No, but it wasn't just a story to them. They believed, they were literalists. I mean, to me, that's not a great argument. Because,
no, but okay,
so millions went to their death, or many went to their death for communism.
That's right. It doesn't
fascism.
validate it in of itself.
I'm sure people people, Jews went to death for,
Yeah.
well, I mean, for they've refused to convert.
Yeah.
And Muslims will go to death.
Yeah, I'm not saying that itself validates it. I'm just saying that why would if
because they don't believe it's just a story. They really believe that Jesus
but
is
then
Lord.
but then including the people apparently closest to Jesus himself. I don't want this to turn into like some sort of religious conversation. We should maybe do a special thing on
well,
this.
we want to hear from you guys. Like, would you like us to talk about it? Because I find these topics, like, I'm not religious, although one might say that I am, especially because
you're spiritual. Yeah,
I don't like to put it in those terms.
Okay.
I would say I was spiritual. But I was very skeptical about my own views.
Okay.
Because if you go to a mental institution, you'll see people there who can give you a very credible story of why they're from Mars, right? And if you go, everyone who has a belief in a religion is very strong, believes that is true, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So. Yeah. Even though I had religious views, spiritual views, I was very skeptical about them myself because I thought, well, I've always just thought like that, so that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Until the last couple of years, when basically everything that happened in my life that I didn't want to happen turned out to be one of the best things that could have possibly happened to me, and led me to learn the things that I needed to learn to become more of the person that I wanted to be anyway.
Yeah.
And that over time made me believe that there's a force in the universe that knows better what's for me than I do and will give me what I need, not what I want, if what I want is what I need. Like, you can say, well, what about people who don't get that? And blah. Well, maybe that's not, maybe I can't speak for them. That's why I say, since this transformation, that now you could say that I'm religious,
okay,
right? Whereas before I would say that I was spiritual, but that's just because it was a.
But doesn't religion imply a system?
Okay, well, I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, I don't really care what you would call it.
Okay.
It's just, for me, that's the distinction for me. It's like tasting the apple as opposed to just theorizing about it,
okay.
Right? So that's why you could say I'm religious, right? But at the same time, I'm willing to say I could be wrong. You know, it could be a load of horseshit. It could just be apophenia. You know, maybe there's nothing. But for me, like, I love some of the stories in the Bible. I love some of the allegories in the Bible. Like, I like the story of the prodigal son. Yeah. You know, I love some of the lines in the Bible. You know, vanity of vanity, all is vanity. Back then, that meant emptiness. It's like that idea of like going into all this shit, you know, the fucking money, the women, all the stuff that Russell Brand did, just being like completely empty because it's just that it's purely emptiness. All this worldly pleasures, and the only thing that's really of any value is like the religious, you know, the religious experience. What was the one, the quote, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. We're going to talk more about that concept.
That's going to kick in. No, it isn't actually. It's just it's a lot of things. It's like one of those, it's like God helps those who help themselves.
Right.
That's not in the Bible either.
But so I find a lot of value in that in the Bible, but I can't say that I've ever had a sense like you have that it's I know there's a lot of stuff in there that I probably don't.
I kind of go with the Pauline theory that if Christ be not resurrected, then your faith is a sham.
Okay.
But anyway.
But what does it mean? What does resurrection mean?
But that he actually physically rose from the dead.
Okay, but that's a literalist view. Someone could say, right, that spirit, wait a second, that spirit, whatever that is that Christ had, like, that needs to come back into the world in a big way. That must be resurrected in man. It's your responsibility. It's my responsibility to bring that Christ-like. That's what Paul could have meant by saying that.
That's what he could have meant.
Right.
But he didn't.
But
anyway,
you're literally, but you didn't.
You're
willing to. You're not only willing to stake your life on it.
It's a bigger topic than we actually have time for, or I indeed want to get into at this moment in time. So from the Messiah to a very naughty boy, it's that man again, Jeremy Corbyn. Now, he's been in the news again recently. Now, I stress this man could very well become Prime Minister in the future, in the near future. But there's been allegations recently that from a former Czech intelligence officer called Jan Sarkozy.
Check it out.
Yeah, check him out. Jan Sarkozy has alleged he paid Mr. Corbyn and other opposition Labour MPs £10,000 for confidential information on Margaret Thatcher's government during the Cold War. And the claims have been denied.
Sounds like horse shit.
Okay, here's my take on this. I couldn't actually give a monkeys if he was a spy, because I know enough about the guy, right? He called Hamas, or you can come back to this. Yeah. He called Hamas and Hezbollah his friends, or people from those organizations his friends. He was openly consorting with known IRA terrorists at the time when the IRA were at their murderous zenith. Okay. And he knew that they were members of the IRA. He made no bones about the fact that he sympathized with the IRA's struggle. But if that's not enough, all I need to know about the guy, and this goes beyond, he doesn't deny this, he's open about this. Jeremy Corbyn believes in using the violence of the state to relieve you of your property. He has openly said that he wants
for your own good.
You know, whatever. The guy, that's enough for me to want to throw the fucker out of a helicopter. That's enough. But all that other stuff is kind of irrelevant. That is enough for me to want to kill him. I'm not going to kill him, right? But it's enough for me to want to. The very fact that he has stated quite clearly in no uncertain terms that he wants to take my property, be it my income, more of it, or be it my actual physical property, in order to bring about his vision, a socialist utopia that has failed so many times before, but he has the hubris to think that he can get it right.
The fatal conceit, as Hayek put it.
And he's
when we fucking centrally plan the economy, we'll do it better.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I agree with your fundamental point, which is, well, but compared to
but you don't want to throw him out a helicopter, man.
I don't care.
Right, okay, I think he is evil. I think he's possibly evil.
Theresa May also wants to relieve you of your property. So do every one of these politicians. That's why they're politicians. I mean, these people who
Okay, but it's not their stated intention.
They claim to be politicians in general. Most of them say they want to go into politics to help people and stuff like that, right? But then why are you, especially the ones on the left who want to help working people? It's like, oh, so you're going to get a nice public sector salary, so working people have to pay taxes to pay you. What if you want to help them? Why not go into some kind of meaningful?
Oxfam.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, go and do something meaningful, But okay, so I agree with you on that point. I don't think evil, I think that's putting it on a bit strongly. Okay, if we're going to say who's evil, Dick Cheney, okay, someone who'll go on television and say, you said there were weapons of mass destruction. Dick Cheney goes, I never said there was weapons of mass destruction. You said you knew where they were. They were on the area. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad. I never said that. The sun never came up this morning. There are news clips of him saying those things in those words, right? Just no, I don't care. Right? Okay.
But Dick Cheney's, insidiousness, does that diminish in any way the fact that Jeremy Corbyn might also be insidious?
I don't think he is. I think that well, first of all, I'm not a supporter of him. I completely hate his economic policy. I despise his views on economics. I guess at one time there was I maybe subscribe to some of the similar views. I don't know if that's the reason why I'm a light on him, but like, well, what do you define as evil? I think that he really believes that the state we can have a nanny state that can take care of people and solve social problems, and he wants.
Well, he had a perfect. Well, we done this last week, but I'll just touch on it again. He had a perfect chance to solve the social problem of the homeless guy that was outside the the Houses of Parliament. And him and his team gave the guy food, but they didn't give him a job, and they didn't invite him to come and live in his house. He could have solved that problem, but he didn't.
So, well, yeah.
What he wants to do is force me to take the homeless guy into my house.
I agree, and I disagree with his politics.
But you don't think he's evil?
It's the double standards, right? I'm not well informed enough about the IRA conflict, right?
Okay.
But I believe in that during that period there was a split between the right, who were for the union of the UK and Northern Ireland, and the left were largely sympathetic to the Republican view, which is that Northern Ireland should be part of Ireland proper. Okay, so I don't know how the UK came to claim Northern Ireland, but I know it wasn't through the voluntary consent of the people who lived there at the time. So I would say there was a legitimate grievance there. I mean, you're a Scottish separatist. You want Scotland to be its own country, right? Yeah. I accept that you don't want to do that by violent means.
No.
In fact, and for all we criticize democracy for, one of the great things about, I can't believe I'm going to say it, one of the great, but we should be aware of it. The great thing about democracy is, for the first time in history, we can remove a government from power without a revolution. Okay, you don't have. But
you still end up with a government.
You do, and that's a problem that we're trying to fix. But I don't know. So I don't know. At the time, I think it was normal for people on the left to sympathise with the Republican cause, and
Well, there's one thing to sympathise with the Republican cause.
Yeah, but one person's freedom fighter, one person's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. So if you're saying, well, you're actually I don't believe. I'm an individualist, so things get really hairy when it comes to these things. You go, but if you have a statist view, you're saying you can make a case that Britain is the aggressor in Northern Ireland. Therefore, anything the IRA do is just retaliation. It's just self-defense.
Even including the kill. I mean, despite, to my knowledge, the IRA killed more Irishmen than the British ever did. Just the same as the PLO tends to kill a lot of Palestinians.
I wouldn't be surprised. Do you know what? Okay, fair enough. I'm not saying that I support their means. I don't support Hamas.
I mean, Michael Collins was arguably one of the greatest Irish patriots ever, and Irish bullets killed him.
Right.
It wasn't the British that killed him.
Yeah, I'm not even. I don't know enough of the issue. I'm not like putting up a defense of the IRA. I'm just saying someone could come from the angle that actually they were the ones acting in self-defense, or whatever. Who's Nelson Mandela? He was a terrorist. He went to prison and he came out and he was a great man, right?
Yeah.
So, but this stuff.
Well, no, but I don't agree that Nelson Mandela was a great. What does that mean? A great man, though.
Was Nelson
Mandela
Mandela
great in the way that Alexander the Great was great?
Stefan Molyneux put out a presentation ripping Nelson Mandela to shreds. So maybe it's more complicated than that. All I'm saying is, right, at the time, I think who was right and who. First of all, but was he actually like? I think a lot of these charges are trumped up because he says that these ex-prisoners were coming to talk about the conditions in prisons, right? Okay, well, how's this then? Okay, meeting with the IRA is so fucking terrible, but it's okay for David Cameron to meet with the Prince of Saud and the Saudi Arabian monarchy, who are like. Who've got this autocratic government? They're throwing people off.
Well, hang on a second. I don't say that it's. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I don't say that that's
why
okay.
Is it? But they are. But you can see why people on the left give Jeremy Corbyn a free pass on this. When he's being grilled in the media, they go, "What a fucking bunch of hypocrites! What a fucking he's so bad for meeting with the IRA." Meanwhile, our leaders are meeting with all these leaders of absolutely tyrannical regimes. They've and
hang on a second though. But
what's the scale?
Well, I would say on a world stage,
okay,
you have to deal with we done business with Stalin. We done business. We met representatives of Hitler. Right. We met with representatives of countries. It's foolish and naive to think that at no time do you talk to or negotiate with your enemies. Right. But Jeremy Corbyn was a supporter of the violent struggle that these organisations were involved in. Okay. It wasn't just that. He met with them to discuss prison conditions.
Both sides were violent.
The IRA were not the only people who had people in prison. If they wanted to talk to people about prison conditions, why didn't they just talk to some prisoners who weren't IRA members?
The thing, right? You know? What the fuck were you and other British people doing in fucking Northern Ireland, someone else's country, when you're in the army? What the fuck are you doing there? Just go, right, guys, it's your fucking piece of land. Those people who are living in Northern Ireland that want to be a part of Great Britain, and those people who don't, you guys fucking sort it out. It's nothing to do with us. We weren't born there. You know, what the fuck are you doing going to someone else's country?
No, they didn't go to someone else's country.
Well, you did.
But they were already there. Yeah, okay.
You were stationed there. You weren't born there. What the fuck is
hold on a second, right.
Right.
We had a Protestant majority. You can argue about whether it's right. You can argue about the demographic. You can argue that it was gerrymandered and it was a false majority. However, there were people in the north, and by the way, not all of them Protestant, right? A sizable amount of Roman Catholics who didn't really want. Right. Okay. Right.
So let them form the militia and fight for the right to be.
Well, they did. They did form militias, and this is how the violence kind of kicked off.
So that's what I mean. Let them sort it out. It's their bit of land. I don't see why people from England and Scotland, funded by taxpayers living in England and Scotland, were going over to another island and telling them what country they should be a part of. Let the people who live there sort it out themselves. It's got fucking nothing to do with people from
here. Hang on a second. If you have British citizenry, right, in Northern Ireland,
tell them if you want to stay there, stay there. If you want to come back,
but they're entitled to the protection of the crown.
Why are they?
Because because that's the deal.
You're the worst libertarian ever right now.
No, I'm not. Because I'm talking about the reality of the situation.
Well, why doesn't the crown?
We weren't living in a libertarian society.
Why?
Well, the crown. That's why the troops were there.
Okay.
And by the way, troops went in to protect, initially, ostensibly at least, troops went in to protect Roman Catholic civilians from from loyalist, close quote, loyalist paramilitaries.
Let them
on their behalf. Well, they were being taxed.
Okay.
Those people living there were being taxed by the crown. And if you're going to tax me, you have to, one of the parts of that deal is that you give me protection.
Contract. Yeah, okay. Well, give the protection of the give the protection of the militias that actually live there. You know, take the fucking it out of the. Get the people who live there to do it. It's like, why? It's just.
But that's kind of what happened, right?
Right. So anyway, my point.
Protestant paramilitaries and Protestant gangs were attacking Roman Catholics.
Okay, so you get the
troops, and they couldn't rely on the local police because they were in bed with the paramilitaries.
It's very Hobbesian, and I actually have a lot of respect for Hobbes, even though he was a monarchist and stuff and believed in the ultimate state. Because he was a good thinker, and what you're saying reminds me of him. So there is a case to be made, and I think you've articulated it quite well. All I'm saying is I don't think it was necessarily clear at that time period in history which side was right and which side was wrong. And I think you tended to, if you were on the left, be on the side of the Republican cause, and if you were on the right, be on the side of the
okay,
cause.
I disagree. I think that you could be pro. The SDLP were for a united Ireland, but they didn't engage in indiscriminate violence. Okay. It wasn't just violence against Crown forces. It was violence against anybody who they saw as colluding with Crown forces.
Okay. I appreciate that, but at the same time, you've got the Thatcher regime supporting Pinochet.
Yeah.
And okay.
If only Pinochet had have thrown Jeremy Corbyn out of a helicopter.
Well, okay. First of all, I think in many ways, Pinochet wasn't the worst dictator ever.
No, but he was still a dictator.
He was still a dictator. He did still cause some atrocities.
Yeah, but roughly about 4,000, 5,000 people.
Okay.
Maybe.
So I actually think that, obviously Milton Friedman consulted with Pinochet and that led to free market reforms, which have served Chile well. But there were other leaders that his opponents supported, Pol Pot, and that was okay. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that Jeremy Corbyn's perfect or that he should have supported the IRA or anything like that. I'm just saying people on the left don't take us seriously when we say these things because it's so statist and it is so the accusations are not leveled in a consistent way. So you've got backing of
But what would Jeremy Corbyn need to do in order for anybody on the left who's his supporter to go, okay, I'm not going to support him anymore? I mean, I think he could eat children. No, and they would still go, yeah, but he's all right.
Essentially, if he took right-wing positions, they'd abandon him. They'd start eating him alive. I don't think, but the thing is, okay, let's take the HAMAS.
I mean, is Jeremy Corbyn right to use violence to relieve people of their property?
No, but
on the grounds, on the premise, well, the state is violence. Therefore, anybody who's got property at the moment must have got that property by violent means at some point in the past.
No.
Well, that's kind of that's.
No, but I agree with you on that point.
Right, okay.
We're sort of kind of like trying to debate the points. Okay, the Hamas Hezbollah thing, right? First of all, Hamas obviously.
I get the fact that Hamas were legitimately elected, as far as I know.
But this is the thing. Okay, Hamas have engaged in violent activities, terrorist activities. Okay.
And their stated aim is the violent destruction of the state of Israel.
They took that out of their charter in 2006. Okay, for fucking ages, the Israelis were like, why don't Hamas use political means? Why don't Hamas use political means? Okay, Hamas goes, they embrace political means, they get elected. Israel imposes a blockade on the Palestinian people. They won't let them import pencils. They won't fucking let them import medicines. Sometimes they do you know what I mean? It's like you punish them for not voting for who you want them to vote for in an election. Well, do you know what? Go and suck a fucking dick, right? That is so out of order.
Okay, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that.
Hezbollah, they're only considered a terrorist organization by like a few countries, like Britain, America, Israel, and a couple of European countries. They are basically.
But it's meaningless to say, I don't know, Luxembourg sees them as a terrorist because they're not involved.
Most of the world does not see them as a terrorist organization, and that's because I don't really know the ins and outs of it, because they're basically a militia made out of the people of Lebanon. They were doing a lot of relief and humanitarian work around the time when the conflict kicked off between the two, between Lebanon and Israel, when Israel ran a third of the population of Lebanon out of their homes with bombing and shit like that. It's like, so wait a second, right? First of all, I'm not a supporter of either of these groups when they embrace violence. I abhor Hamas. I'm not. It might sound like I'm defending Hamas. The only thing I'm saying is, when you analyze these things, you should use the same measuring stick to measure both sides. And if you use the same measuring stick, then you get a different interpretation from what you're going to get off the media, right? You can just like Google Israel white phosphorus and see them using chemicals on civilian populations, burning their fucking skin off. You can see like the bombs that the experimental bombs which they've bought from America to test out on the Palestinian people so that the Americans can see what their new fancy weapons do. That have got shot. You can see X-rays with people with little shards of shrapnel going all through these bodies. The average age of a person, of a Palestinian, it's a population of kids. It's like really young. The average population age.
This sounds like leftist bullshit to me. But anyway,
well, no, you would say that, right? Why don't you Google it? Why don't you Google it and find out? I'm not making this stuff up. It's in the public domain, right? So all I'm saying is, if you use the same measuring stick, you can as easily criticize any leader for meeting with
they would. What do you fucking think that the Labour or socialist supporters would do if Theresa May had been known to be associated with somebody from even National Action, which they describe as a terrorist group?
Is National Action a terrorist group?
Well, you have to understand what the left defines as terrorism, which is basically any act of violence that they disagree with.
Okay, well, and that's exactly the same. So if you don't agree with that the Palestinians are the occupied people and that they're fighting a defensive war, you go, well, you're meeting with Hamas and saying they're your friends. Okay, well, if you believe that they are the occupying force, you say, well, why is that? Why? What was it? There was some woman in the administration of Israel that came here, and there was protests about her coming, and people were saying she was a war criminal. So what I'm saying is, you should just use the same ruler to measure it. That's all. That's my only point. And obviously, on the left, broadly speaking, they think Israel's the aggressor. There's a split in the libertarian community on that point. From my research, my view is that Israel is the aggressor. So I'm going to say that, just like you say, they have to meet with I don't see why Jeremy Corbyn's worse for meeting with members of the IRA than David Cameron is for voting to bomb Iraq and Afghanistan. Because, like, tens of thousands of people died. At minimum, maybe hundreds of thousands. Some people are saying over 1 million people died in Iraq because of the war.
I'm not a supporter of David Cameron's war.
I know you're not, but this is what I'm saying. Where does he come in the chain of moral fucking culpability? Do you know what I mean? For having a meeting as opposed to voting to initiate a war.
Okay, even that though, I was saying the spy thing, even the fact that he's involved in meeting known terrorists, all that I could actually just go, well, look, that doesn't really matter. It's enough for me to know that he's willing to use violence against me to redistribute my wealth.
Right. Okay. Well, I agree with you on that point.
Okay.
So we were going to talk about
if he's not evil, what does he think he's doing?
Okay, and this is something that I've been noticing. Right, this is very interesting.
And this applies to Russell Brand as well, I guess,
because he's all about his lefty shite. Right. Why is it the left want to use the state to, to be a real libertarian here, but to basically turn people into children, or to make, let's use the Bible, make us our brother's keeper, right?
Okay.
I want to say, what if I want to say, right, first of all, I think I'm quite a socially responsible person. I mean, I work in the helping industry. I'm a counsellor. And
you charge people money for treatment.
Shocking. I've seen people for very little when they're being in dire straits, but I did that. I did that. I love. Yeah, I wish that I'd been his therapist. That's pretty good, right? Okay. Also, a lot of the stuff I put out in economics, it's basically on welfare economics from a libertarian perspective. By the way, welfare economics does not mean the economics of welfare. It means the economics of how to improve people's welfare. So, and I put that out because I really believe in the power of free markets to help people at the bottom. So I don't have to do that. I do that for free. So I think I do have a social conscience. But what if I want to go, fuck you, your life is your responsibility, and my life's my responsibility. As Ayn Rand said, don't you put any of your responsibility on me. If you want to take responsibility for poor people, you do it. Don't force your responsibility onto me. The left have a problem with people making that decision. Where do you get the idea that you have the right to oblige someone to give a shit? Not just to give a shit, but to force them to live for someone else. To force someone to live against their will for someone else's sake, right? And as libertarians, we're against that.
Yeah, but you're getting all the benefits of society, though, and you're not willing to chip in.
Well, I mean, okay, well then give me the right to opt out of gaining those benefits, right? Everyone who wants to gain those benefits can pay in, and I said, you know what, I'm fine with that. Make me pay, measure my use of the roads and make me pay for them, okay?
Right.
Now, meter it, okay? I'm up for that, supposing I want to decontract.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing, and this is based on my experience, and it's very interesting that we had the conversation before about my spiritual or religious views, because I think I came to my understanding of the left through my experience of suffering over the last couple of years and the way it's changed me. Because a lot of the time my suffering was exactly what I needed to learn, to overcome that suffering and gain mastery in certain situations, right? So since then, I've been a lot more inclined to be like, if I see people in certain problems, if I can help, I can help, but I won't try too hard, because sometimes I just think, let them go through their suffering, because that's what they need to experience right now. If they don't suffer enough, they won't come to a counselor like me or someone that or that can help them or do something else. You know, they won't do anything for themselves unless they suffer enough to make them think, well, fuck this, I'm ruining my life. I need to make a change. I need to make a change, whether it's in their business, whether they're not happy that they can't get a girlfriend, whether whatever area of their life they're suffering in.
So if we don't allow people to experience the consequences of their bad decisions, they'll just continue to keep doing it.
Precisely. And I think that many of them will, some of them won't, right? But I think that the left just can't stand the thought of someone suffering. They just can't stand it. And that's the pathological empathy bit, because sometimes people have to suffer. And this is why I think, apart from being an ideological libertarian who doesn't believe in the forcible transfer of wealth, this is one of the reasons why I'm against the welfare state. Because I believe that if you want help, you should go and have to ask the person you want help for help. Because that means you need to present yourself, right? And say, look, I'm going through a really hard time now. Will you give me money? Will you give me some help? Can you? Or you can go to a charity and say, can you provide me with drug counseling? Can you provide me with this, that, and the other, right? And they will assess you. They've got limited funds. They will say, yes, we can help you, but you're going to have to get off the smokes. You're going to have to stop drinking. And you're going to
have to take a job.
Yeah, and you're going to have to volunteer at the centre. Or we'll see you for free just now, but when you're doing better, you're going to have to come here and volunteer and help other people. That's the contract.
Yeah.
We will pay you £5 3 times a week to go to come here for an exercise class. If you don't, then if you don't, then we're not going to pay. If you don't do what you need to do to get better, then we're not going to give you money, because there's a queue of people who fucking will. Right? And the thing is, because their resources are limited and because they're based on donations, they're going to help the people who help themselves, and they're going to find more and more efficient ways of allocating those resources. And you said before, well, what did you say the left-wing response to this? Oh, we're going to pay you to go to an exercise class, or we're going to pay you to get off the fags, or what?
Oh yeah, dance, monkey boy, dance, sing for your supper.
Right, but I'm saying it's more empathetic. Right, okay, let's make a distinction. That maybe that's the distinction between empathy and compassion. It's more compassionate to force them to adopt habits in exchange for help than to just put the money in the bank account, because you're perfectly happy to take the responsibility off them and allow them to go in a downward spiral and just get fatter and fatter, or stay addicted, or, you know, whatever their malady is, right? So the thing is, there's no responsibility when you just get that as a cash payment, and there's no notion of the need to present yourself, and there's no need to present yourself because you get it in your bank account anyway. But if there's a need to present yourself, then you go, oh, well, I better get on a shirt, like I better, you know, something like, okay, I need to actually come across, and also I need to not have been an asshole to everyone my whole life, you know. There's what we call in economics, what's the word for it? Damn.
Here's the thing though, if they present themselves too well, if they get on a shirt and a suit or whatever and go, no, you're clearly not in need of anything. Well, you know, so
well, this is the need to have a market and charity for it, because they will be able to tell the difference. Well, maybe it's not about.
I mean, charities are getting a bad press at the moment because there's been, well, we talked about Oxfam last week, but there's a lot of that. There's been other organisations and charities are getting a bad press. But what people don't seem to understand is, look, at least you don't have to. If you don't want to give that charity your money, I think it's a mistake to decide if Oxfam's doing a good job, right? If they're getting 60%, let's say, of what they take, and they get that to the people who need it, I think it's a mistake to say, because a few individuals in that organisation done some unsavoury things, that I'm not going to give that organisation money anymore. However, that's your right. If you're a donator to those organisations, say, okay, because they've done that, I'm not going to give. When it's government organisations, you don't have a choice. You can't do that. So you have to support these organisations, whether you want to or not, because they will just take your fucking money and use it for nefarious purposes.
Here's the thing. I heard from someone I know, that was very poor, and she went to a charity, and they advised her to get pregnant, so that she'd get a house, so that she'd be eligible for more welfare. So the existing, I don't know what charity it was, but they should be named and shamed, because they're probably saying that to tons of people. Because it's like, right, then she's off, then she's no longer a problem.
Did they say that to her in all seriousness though, or was it a kind of?
No, they said it to her seriously. That was their advice for her. Now that shows that the public sector, the welfare state we have, corrupts the charity. And I remember the economics term, it's moral hazard. Moral hazard means when you do something bad, there's a negative consequence for it, right? See, if you've been an asshole to your neighbors your whole life, then you come into hard times. There's no moral hazard when you can just pick up your welfare check. So this is creating an excellent incentive, right? People go, oh, people like Russell Brand will say, oh, capitalism, it's so impersonal. No one knows their neighbors anymore. It's all consumeristic. That is created by the welfare state. You don't need to know your neighbors, because the state is your neighbor. Before, you needed to know your neighbors. You had a friendly society. You all pitched in for this, that, and the other. Now you don't need to do that anymore, because people don't think it's their job. They think it's the government's job. So this is such an interesting show, because all of the topics we talk about link together, because you mentioned the quote, God helps those that help themselves. The welfare state does not privilege those who help themselves. It privileges those who don't help themselves. And this is the pathological empathy of the left. Or just give them money. Or just, that'll sort them out. No, people should have to present themselves. If you want something from someone else, you do something for them that they want in exchange, or you ask them for it, or you give them your gratitude. This is the thing. People do not appreciate it. Oh, it's a right. It's a right. I've got the right to other people's money. If you can see someone that has to sacrifice to give you a helping hand, there's more chance that you will appreciate that and use it because you're touched that someone helps you. oh, now it's just a right.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
What did you think of Jordan Peterson's assertion, or the notion that this leftist idea is a kind of very feminine notion, in as much as when you look at paleo societies and ancient societies, men were the hunter-gatherers and the producers, and women were the distributors. And it was a kind of feminine idea, like we need to make sure that everybody's got enough. And that notion of we need to make sure everybody's got enough is a very feminine notion, and that permeates leftist kind of ideology.
Women are typically more left-wing than right-wing. We could say, have the debate over whether that's socially conditioned.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of women out there who'd spitting nails at the moment at the idea of you saying that they're leftists. But I think generally,
I think there's evidence of that. But also, it's like women are. I think it's evolutionary biology, personally.
Yeah.
You know, men like power and women like stuff, and it's like, obviously, I'm broadly speaking. It's resources. Your daddy's rich, your mama's good looking. Now, I don't think that the best choice of a partner is the richest guy you can find, or necessarily the most beautiful woman that you can find. They're the people who are going to be spoiled for choice and won't treat you so well. But something does gravitate towards in women is like, resources. So I guess it's a feminine thing. For me, I think it's bad that people cannot go out and provide for themselves if you are dependent on the government for your income. It doesn't matter if they give you a universal basic income. You will never, ever feel secure because you know that you can't go out and make a living. I don't think it's good for people's psychological health to be dependent on welfare.
Okay, I'm just having a look at some of the comments there. Rick Tang McCall, Ricky says, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you. Somebody here, Guerrilla TV chat. No, sorry. Jonathan Rainey says, are you too in favour of gun control? No. The progressive left want it so bad ever since the Parkland shooting recently. And David Laird, my brother, says, gun control is just gun monopoly. That's pretty much how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what? We were going to talk about it on this podcast.
Let's just do a brief one.
Briefly, look, this thing just goes in circles and circles and circles, and it doesn't matter how many times we present
the evidence,
reason and evidence. Okay,
it doesn't sit well with people.
It just doesn't. The left don't care. George Clooney and Oprah Winfrey have donated hundreds of thousands of dollars recently to organizations, student organizations, who are going to protest on campus at guns, basically, and they want the government to do something. Something must be done. It's all about our children, says George Clooney. We need to do this for the sake of our children. No, for the sake of our children, you need to keep those fucking guns. It's really interesting to me and ironic that the same people who say that Donald Trump is literally Hitler, right, and he has to be stopped, are the same people who are saying that Donald Trump should take people's guns away from them. Well, if Donald Trump is literally Hitler, the last thing you want is for him to be taking your guns away. You want to keep a hold of those fuckers so that when he comes at you, you can defend yourself. So just briefly on the gun thing, it's one of these arguments that just does not go away. The left want to create a situation in which the only people who will have guns are violent criminals and the state, and take your pick what's worse.
And for me, the thing that really pisses me off is I'm tired of getting treated like a fucking idiot because I base my views on gun control on reason and evidence rather than emotion. Someone actually said that, well, it just doesn't sit well with me. It seems a bit defeatist to let people have guns. I think you're fighting the wrong fight. And it's like, here's the thing. That is exactly what I'm against. People making policies on what sits well with them, okay? It doesn't sit well with the NRA people that you want to take their guns away. Yeah. So when we base policies on what we feel, there's no room for consensus. There is no room for consensus when we base policies on what we feel.
And I guess at this
only
moment,
on reason and evidence. So
yeah,
you go on.
I take it at this moment, a leftist would cut in and go, nobody's saying that you can't have a gun. What we're saying is we want more tighter controls on them. What's wrong with making people register? What's wrong with making people, who needs an AR-15, to defend themselves? Well, you can do that with just an ordinary handgun. You
Right.
don't need, and it's like, well, it's the thin. I know you're not. I know the wedge fallacy here, but I think it is the thin end of the wedge. If you allow the government to start to
It's pointless, because the vast majority of people who commit crimes don't actually buy their gun from a retailer.
Yeah.
They either get it secondhand at a flea market. A percentage of them steal them. So what's the point? They're not getting them through the official channels. Here's my 5 points.
Okay.
Right. Number one, all of the shootings happen in gun-free zones, areas where no one was allowed to bear arms, including the security. That demonstrates that criminals don't like getting shot back at. Number two, some people live out in the countryside in America where it takes 4 or 5 hours for a police car to arrive. They have got the right to defend themselves and their property and their family. On that point, let's make it more broad. If you believe that your most basic right is your right to your life, self-defense is the most indisputable natural right, and I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't just exist amongst humans. It's all across the animal kingdom. Some, even in species, they'll fight in their little pack, but if one submits to the other, the other will stop fighting them. But you've got the right to defend, but everyone tries to defend themselves. They run, or every animal will try and preserve their life, right? And the thing about a gun is it's the great equalizer. A small woman does not have much chance, or a weedy guy like me does not have much chance against their potential assailant, okay? But if they've got a gun, and here's the thing, only 10% of women need to be carrying a gun to deter rapists. Only 10% of houses have to have a gun in them for everyone to get the benefit of deterrence. Number three, literally hundreds of thousands of crimes are stopped every year in America by law-abiding citizens carrying guns.
Yeah.
You're not factoring that in.
Yeah. The guy who shot up that church in America, the guy who chased them down and actually killed him with an AR-15. He was a private citizen that did that. Here's one to ask your anti-gun friends. Do you not think that a shop owner in a dangerous area should be allowed to have a gun? And if not, how about a prison psychologist that deals with psychopaths every day? Should he not be allowed to have a gun in his drawer? Why not? Okay. Should no one have a gun apart from the police, right? Yeah.
First of all, it's easy to focus on the emotive. Number four, it's easy to focus on the emotive issue of a shooting, but you can't count the number of crimes that have been deterred. I guess that's the same point, right? So, and finally, the majority of gun violence in America is gang-related. So it's essentially consensual. It's people shooting at other people that are shooting at them, right? If you take gun violence out of the numbers, you'll see that America doesn't have a gun problem. It has a gang problem.
There's also a high amount of suicides in those figures as well.
Oh, yeah. They count in suicides, and they also count in people who were killed by police officers. Yeah. Can you believe that?
Yeah. It's pretty dishonest.
Right. So, so here's the other thing. The gun crime, the gang crime is largely, or to a degree, created by the welfare state, which pays black families, black mothers to have illegitimate children. I'm sorry, but illegitimacy amongst blacks in America is through the roof. Number two, the minimum wage. Every time they put the minimum wage up in America, youth unemployment amongst blacks goes down. I'm sorry, I know it goes up. I know that not only blacks are in gangs. I apologize, but look, if you fucking call me a racist, go and suck a fucking dick, quite frankly, okay? I'm talking about...
As long as it's not a black
I'm talking about statistics here, right? Third of all, The war on drugs. The war on drugs. How successful has banning drugs been?
Oh, it's you can't get drugs for love nor money.
Yeah, and it's these fucking the same people who are against drug prohibition are somehow think that banning guns is a magic wand. So that's what I've got to say.
If you want to see this dealt with comprehensively in under a minute, go on to Steve Crowder, and Steve Crowder absolutely demolishes the anti-gun argument in under a minute. You know, so I'd check that out on YouTube if you've got time.
Right. So this was one of my favorite episodes because we got into some rousing debates and
yes, and we must do some more of that actually.
Yeah. So let us know what you think. Remember, I have another podcast called Be Yourself and Love It podcast. If you're interested in personal development, my target is to get twice as many hits this month as last month, and I'm on my way. So listen to a couple of episodes and see if you like it. I also have a free book called Procrastination Annihilation, which you can get at beyourselfandloveit.com/do it. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No.
Be good to each other. Until next time, be libertarians.
Don't be righty
or a lefty.